Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. Today, we are looking at some interesting operational decisions that really define the modern cruise industry.
Yeah, we are looking at three distinct reports today that all tie into how cruise lines manage the onboard environment. It is really fascinating when you break down the raw logistics behind these updates.
Right. We are going to cover Carnival's recent itinerary changes for their adult-only program. Then we will look at how Holland America is actually utilizing the physical journey of their ships for a unique beverage partnership.
And then we will review a federal complaint regarding a recent safety incident on a Virgin Voyages ship and how law enforcement handles jurisdiction at sea.
Exactly. So let us start with the itinerary planning over at Carnival Cruise Line. They recently revised two late 2026 itineraries for their SEA program, and CCA stands for Sailings Exclusively for Adults.
Yeah, and these revisions are quite specific. The first one involves the Carnival Firenze. That is an 11-night sailing departing from Long Beach on November 2nd, 2026.
And what exactly are they changing on that route?
Well, they are swapping the port order. So, instead of the original schedule, they are now visiting Puerto Vallarta and Acapulco in reverse order. And on top of that, they are adjusting the specific hours that the ship will be docked in Mazatlan.
Got it. And then there is a change on the East Coast as well, right?
The Carnival Conquest. That one is an 11-night sailing out of Miami, departing on November 30th, 2026. For that itinerary, they are replacing St. Maarten entirely with a stop in St. Thomas.
Okay, and for anyone booked on these who might have had plans, the reports note that pre-booked Carnival tours for any skipped ports are being automatically refunded.
Yeah, which is the standard operational procedure for an itinerary change like this. It is a seamless process for the guest, but it requires a lot of back-end management.
Right. But I want to look at the scale of these ships for a second. The Firenze carries 4,126 guests. It is a 135,156 gross ton vessel. The Conquest carries 2,980 guests and sits at 110,000 gross tons.
They are massive ships. I mean, you were talking about coordinating the movements of small cities.
Exactly. And the detail from the reports that stands out to me is that Carnival actually canceled 11 regular Firenze sailings to accommodate this 21 and older schedule.
Yeah, 11 full regular sailings canceled. That is a significant operational shift.
It really is. I mean, it brings up the question of why a line known historically for family cruising is willing to displace regular bookings to carve out this specific casino-focused demographic.
Well, it shows a strategic pivot in their revenue model. Historically, these casino-centric adult cruises were operated on a strictly invitation-only basis.
Oh, like comps for high-rolling players?
Exactly. They were designed specifically to reward top-tier casino guests. But now, Carnival is shifting that model. They have opened 4 of these fall 2026 Firenze departures to any passenger who is 21 or older.
Right. The brand ambassador, John Heald, was quoted directly on this. He stated, quote, SCA adults-only cruises now open for everyone, and he specifically highlighted the enhanced dining and the casino activities.
Right, so it is a move toward hypersegmentation. They are actively curating the demographic to guarantee a certain onboard atmosphere.
Because an adults-only atmosphere generates different revenue streams, especially in the casino.
Exactly. And going back to those port changes we mentioned earlier, swapping Acapulco and Puerto Vallarta, or adjusting hours in Mazatlan, that is not just about logistics or local weather.
No, what is the strategy there?
Well, casinos on cruise ships can legally only operate when the vessel is in international waters. So, by meticulously adjusting their port hours, cruise lines can maximize the exact number of hours the ship spends sailing on the open ocean.
Oh, I see. Which directly maximizes the hours the casino floor is legally allowed to be open.
Right. It guarantees the environment they need for that specific revenue model to work.
That makes a lot of sense. So they are engineering the schedule to align with the demographic they are targeting.
Precisely.
Well, speaking of utilizing the environment, let us move to our second story. Because Holland America is actually using the physical environment of their ships to create a new product for their guests.
This is a really interesting approach to onboard amenities. On March 27th, which happens to be International Whiskey Day, Holland America announced a fleet-wide at-sea aging program in partnership with Jefferson's Bourbon.
So how does the rollout for this work mechanically across the fleet?
By the end of April 2026, they had successfully loaded 1 barrel of Jefferson's Ocean Bourbon onto every single one of their 11 ships.
1 barrel per ship. And how long do they stay on board?
These barrels will age on the ships for at least 6 months before they are bottled. They are expecting a yield of roughly 150 to 300 bottles per barrel, and those will be available for guests in 2027.
That is a very limited, exclusive run. And what makes it unique is that the maturation is actively altered by the ship's specific route, right?
That is exactly it. Across the fleet, these barrels are going to visit nearly 400 ports in 114 different countries.
Right, because in a traditional rickhouse, bourbon sits in a static barrel relying on seasonal temperature changes. But on a cruise ship, you have constant kinetic energy.
Yeah, the physical motion of the vessel means the liquid is continuously interacting with the wood. Add in the barometric pressure changes, the sea air, the temperature shifts. All of that impacts the aging process.
It is almost like how wine has terroir from the soil. This bourbon effectively has, ocean war. The physical ship becomes an active ingredient.
That is a great way to describe it. The kinetic energy drastically accelerates the extraction of flavors from the oak. And Trey Zuller, who founded Jefferson's, is very familiar with this process.
Right, he built a brand around it.
He did. He has personally overseen 35 ocean voyages with his Ocean series, but those were barrels sent out on commercial cargo ships and fishing vessels.
So this marks a shift for them as well.
Yeah, this Holland America initiative is their very first partnership with a passenger cruise line.
And Drew Folk, who is Holland America's Director of Food and Beverage Revenue, had an interesting quote about this.
He did. He stated that this creates a beverage program that is, quote, shaped by the journey itself.
It ties the product directly to the passenger's specific vacation. A barrel on a cargo ship produces bourbon, but a barrel on a passenger ship produces an exclusive souvenir tied to that exact itinerary.
Exactly. Trey Zuller noted that the resulting whiskey will be completely exclusive to the specific ship it sailed on.
And this is all part of a larger experiential program Holland America is doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it fits into their America's 250th program. They have a few bespoke experiences lined up for that.
Like the July 4th, 2026 Stars and Stripes cruise out of Boston.
Right, and the 28-day Pan Am 100th anniversary legendary voyage in 2027. They also have specific retail collaborations, like offering a numbered Pendleton Woolen Mills throw for their 2026 Alaska sailings.
It all comes down to elevating the physical context of the journey into a premium offering.
Absolutely. It is a very deliberate curation of the onboard experience.
But of course, curating these environments and bringing in these outsourced unique experiences requires an enormous operational framework. And a core part of that framework is managing passenger safety.
Yes.
Which brings us to our final report today. We are going to look at a recent federal complaint involving an incident aboard Virgin Voyages Brilliant Lady. We will be covering this soberly, strictly based on the facts provided in the federal filings.
Right. According to the complaint, Pranit Narayan Pawar, who is a 26-year-old former hairstylist working aboard the Brilliant Lady, has been charged by federal prosecutors in Washington with 2 counts of abusive sexual contact.
And for context on the timeline, these incidents took place during a 9-night Alaska sailing that departed on June 23, 2026.
Returning to the topic of outsourced experiences, Virgin Voyages confirmed that Pawar was not a direct employee of the cruise line itself.
He was a contractor, right?
Yes, he was employed by a third-party concessionaire that is contracted to provide the onboard spa and salon services.
According to the complaint, Pawar allegedly offered unauthorized complimentary massages that he tied to hair appointments at the ship's dry dock salon.
The filing states he moved female guests into a private, locked room adjacent to the salon and touched them without their consent.
Right, and during his interview with the FBI, Pawar admitted that providing massages was explicitly not part of his job description.
He also acknowledged that the legitimate, sanctioned spa services on the Brilliant Lady are located separately. They are at the Redemption Spa on Deck 5, which is distinct from the salon area where he was working.
The federal complaint further details that he admitted to taking 4 or 5 women into that onboard room over the course of nearly 2 weeks.
According to the federal agents, he stated he felt guilty for his mistakes, regretted his actions, and acknowledged he, quote, can see how his behavior would be harassing.
Virgin Voyages responded to the allegations immediately. They stated the conduct was a profound violation of their standards. They immediately removed him from duty and reported him to the FBI.
They also noted that he violated their strict code of conduct, which prohibits uninvited physical contact and interactions with guests outside of professional duties.
This operational response from the cruise line is standard procedure for severe allegations. But the jurisdictional mechanics of what happens next are quite complex, and I think it is important to unpack that.
It is a vital part of maritime operations, understanding how the law functions in these spaces.
Right, because we are talking about an incident that occurred on a ship sailing through Alaskan waters. The accused is an Indian citizen. He was employed by a third-party company, yet he is being prosecuted in federal court in Tacoma, Washington.
Right. How does the United States assert legal authority in that floating space?
Exactly.
It hinges on a specific statute cited in the federal complaint, 18 U.S.C. Section 7.
Okay, what does that statute cover?
It defines the, quote, special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the United States. It provides a legal framework so that vessels do not become lawless zones when they operate outside of standard state boundaries.
Usually, if a ship is in international waters, it is subject to the laws of the country where the ship is registered, like the Bahamas or Panama, right?
Generally, yes, the flag state holds jurisdiction. But the U.S. asserts this special maritime jurisdiction under specific conditions.
Such as?
If a vessel departs from or arrives at a U.S. port, which in this case was Seattle, or if the victim or perpetrator is a U.S. national. When those conditions are met, the U.S. Attorney's Office has the authority to prosecute crimes committed on waters outside the jurisdiction of any single U.S. state.
And the timeline detailed in the reports really shows how fast that legal protocol moves.
It does. The alleged conduct occurred around June 26th. The ship returned to Seattle for debarkation on July 2nd.
And on that exact same day, July 2nd, FBI special agents were there to interview Pawar.
Right. The cruise line secures the individual, and the moment the ship returns to port, the jurisdictional handover occurs immediately. Federal authorities take custody.
By July 6th, he was making his first court appearance in Tacoma.
It is a highly coordinated effort. And regarding the charges, if convicted, he faces a maximum of 2 years in federal prison for each count.
When you look at all three of these reports together, it really highlights the complexity of operating these modern cruise ships.
It certainly does. It is an exercise in intense logistical management.
From displacing regular bookings to engineer a specific adult-only demographic, to utilizing the ship's physical movement to manufacture an exclusive bourbon.
And, crucially, maintaining the rigorous safety protocols required to manage a floating city in international waters.
It is a massive balancing act, which leaves you with a final thought to consider based on today's stories. As cruise lines continue to push the boundaries of onboard amenities, they are increasingly relying on outsourced, unique experiences.
Right. Partnering with third-party concessionaires for everything from specialty beverage programs to salons and spas.
Exactly. So the ongoing question for the industry is how they will continue to balance the massive consumer demand for these bespoke experiences with the non-negotiable necessity of rigorous staff vetting and security oversight.
Managing that balance is going to dictate the future of onboard operations for every major line.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.